This video is going to teach you how to complete the square for a couple different reasons. Number one, it's a way to solve quadratic equations, which we have not covered before, not this particular method, but even more important, it's going to help you to manipulate equations so that we can move them from one form to another in the upcoming conics chapter that we're going to be starting. So I have some examples for you. Here we go. First of all, here is the list on how to do it. I'm not going to read it to you. You can read. You can pause the video. You can write this stuff down. Some of these steps will be used when you're solving quadratics in particular, but other parts of it won't necessarily be done. It kind of depends on what the question's asking, right? If it says complete the square to manipulate your equation, then you may not be doing the very last couple steps. But if it just says solve the quadratic, then you have to do all the steps. I will try and cover a couple of examples of each kind so you can see that. So if you'll notice on this one, it does say solve by completing the square. All right, so if I'm following the steps that were on that list, step one is make sure your A value, your leading coefficient, is a 1, which it is. Second, we're going to move the constant to the other side, and we're going to write in a couple of blanks, literal blanks that we're going to fill in. So when I move the 23 over, notice it becomes negative. Okay, so this is where I look at this middle term, and I divide it in half, which is negative 12, and I square it, which gives me 144. I'm going to put that in both blanks because whatever you do to one side of an equation, you are required to do to the other. All right, so now on the left, this is all factorable. All right, and the beautiful thing about completing the square is that you won't have to even think about how to factor it, because as long as you remember what half of this term was, you will know exactly what this number is. Okay, so it does factor really nice. And then over here, when you combine your like terms, that adds up to be 121. Okay, so all you have done at this point is you have completed the square and you've written your equation in an equivalent form. All right, I know it looks different, but it is perfectly equivalent. All right, so now to solve this, all right, so again, this problem says solve. If all it had said was to complete the square, you would be done. All right, but it does say solve, so we're going to take the square root of both sides, which means I get plus or minus 11 on the right. And over here on the left, I have y minus 12. If I move the negative 12 over, I now have 12 plus or minus 11. So there are two answers for y. When you add, you get 23, and when you subtract, you get 1. Okay, let's try another. All right, so example 2, if I'm completing the square, step 1, and this is really important, make sure you have an A value of 1, which we do. So then you're going to move the constant to the other side, and you're going to add in some blanks. All right, then you take half of this term, which is 5, and square it. You're going to put that in both blanks. One side and this side actually gets factored beautifully, easily. The other side gets simplified, right? You just combine like terms. That's 28. All right, so you have officially completed the square. All right, that's what completing the square looks like. So now all I have to do is take the square root to keep going with this and solving. All right, so now let's see, 28 is what, 2 times 2 times 7? So I'm going to have plus or minus 2 rad 7. Over here, I've got x plus 5. All right, and to solve, I just have to move this 5 to the other side. So I'm going to have x equals negative 5 plus or minus 2 rad 7. All right, now notice, this one's asking, the directions are slightly different. Okay, the directions here are rewrite the parabola in vertex form by completing the square. Okay, now the process, again, is very, very similar. Make sure your A value equals 1, which it does. Move the constant to the other side. So I'm going to have y minus 11. Don't forget to add in your blanks. right? You take half of this term, which is -3, and square it. All right, again, just like before, one side gets simplified like that. The other side gets factored like that. Let me get rid of this. This is kind of in the way. One sec. There we go. So then all I have left to do, right, because I'm not solving here, I'm just rewriting. I'm going to move this back to the other side. So I have x minus 3 quantity squared plus 2. Okay, now again, the beauty of this is I now have two separate equations of a parabola. Okay, I have, let me highlight for you, I have the standard form up here that was given, and then I now have vertex form down here that we got by completing the square. Okay, now this one, okay, this is a really important example because it's the first one that you've seen where the a value is not 1. Okay, so what you want to do is divide everything by 2. Right? If I divide everything by 2, I now have an a value of 1. All right, so now I can complete this process one more time. I'm going to move the constant over here to this side. So I have y over 2 plus 1/2 plus a blank equal to x squared plus 2x plus a blank, right? Half of this term right here is 1 squared is 1. Okay, then you combine the like terms over here on the left, and on the right you factor. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and move this 3/2 back to the other side. X plus 1 squared minus 3/2. And then lastly, I need to fraction bust, right? I'm going to multiply everything by 2 so that cancels. Here I get 2 times x plus 1 squared, and here the 2's cancel, minus 3. So again, you can kind of see down here, I've got my equation in vertex form that we got by completing the square. But up top, I have it, the original, whoa, wrong thing. There we go. The original up here is in standard form. All right, so hopefully that helps you understand how to complete the square a little bit. There are multiple YouTube videos if this one didn't float your boat. You can always ask me. I'm here before school, I'm here at lunch. Ask away.